Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death. This is Uncle Walt from the Ironworks. Josh, Corey, and I have chosen to look at life with no fear. No fear of the unknown. No fear of questions about the supposedly well-known. No fear of ridicule for thinking outside the familiar fool's lines. No fear of the boot and the neck of those refusing the party line. No fear of taking on those so convinced of their beliefs they would sooner drink the Kool-Aid than believe they've been fools made. In this world filled with me too, cattle think, can truth's protective layers be peeled back to show the tender, juicy pink? Are we all just grist for the mill? Souls sold against our will, or is that just how it feels? When you're filled to the rim with TV so fear-filled and grim, break clear of the fear right here. Tuesdays and Fridays at 2 a.m. on TFR. Josh and I and you will hammer out the impurities of technology-driven groupthink, fold in a dash of logic, and quench it all with a bit of absurdity. The Ironworks. Break clear of the fear.
TGIF, ladies and gentlemen, thank God it's Friday, thank God it's flat, and thank God we are here once again. My name is Josh Corey. I am glad to be with you. We don't have a quite full house this week. We're down a couple, but that's quite all right. We are making it up in a couple spots, so that'll be a lot of fun. Let's just jump right in and say hello to my co-host from this morning's show, The Ironworks, over there on Truth Frequency Radio, TFRlive.com, Mr. Walter Johnson, Flat Earth Head on YouTube. Walt, how you doing?
I am better for saying hey to you guys. How y'all doing this afternoon, evening, morning? I don't know. I'm afternoon here, so it's been an interesting and long day. Fridays always are for Josh and I, but we keep it flat on Friday for damn sure.
Yes, we do.
I see we've already got a crew swarming into the chat there. Hello to everyone I haven't already said hello to there, so glad to have you guys here already.
Same, I do. I see there's a whole pile of people in there. Chad Swans, I see you're in there. Looks like your video's doing really well. Went up on Walt's channel. Walt, why don't you get into that a little bit?
Yeah, it took me forever to get it together. It's been a hectic week here. Mardi Gras week in South Louisiana. Even if you're not celebrating it, tends to make your week crazy because everybody else is celebrating it. So it just tends to make going places, and everything just took forever all week. And the hectic, crazy energy between the eclipse and the solar flare storm that we're about, we're stuck between some kind of crazy cycle of energy for sure. So, but I finally got it up, and it's already got like 74, 75 views since this afternoon, about noon, I guess. So get over there, check it out. When I say check out the video, quote unquote, there's just a lot of visual imagery to keep your mind occupied while you listen to the awesome show we had with Chad, I guess about 2 weeks ago now, a week ago, something like that. Shows you what my brain is already this afternoon.
That sounds good to me. 2 weeks ago, I think that last week, maybe like 3 episodes ago.
Well, see, I say weeks. I'm thinking shows as weeks but apart. I forget we actually do 2 a week, don't we? So, something like it's been a couple of shows ago. But anyway, it's an awesome show. Go check it out.
Anthony Riley, get some sleep. You're going to bed. You got a big weekend coming up, St. B's.
That's true. That's true.
So, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what happens there. That's going to be good. Ace McLeod, I see you there. D, I see you. Unkululeko, hello.
Nuka-Cola.
I'm real interested on hearing what you guys have got going on there in Africa. I heard you got a little crew together. You guys been nailing down some research, so I'm real curious to hear what you guys have been looking at. That being said, we also have with us James, the Full Armor OG. James, thank you so much for joining us this morning over on the Ironworks. That was an awesome time. Great time. I loved having you on.
That wasn't being facetious in any way, was it?
See, I jest. James is probably still handling things on the phone.
You're still talking to an empty phone now.
That's all right.
James said he literally fell asleep with the phone in his hand this morning, so at least he was there in heart, in spirit.
That's me being a bit of a dick.
Not so much in body and mind.
James is in a really good mood, so I'm just here to knock him down a peg every chance I get.
Giving him a piss take. Speaking of a piss take, Adam Meakin, what's up, brother?
Yeah, I've never been known to do that, mate. Never been known to do that. Evening, guys.
Good evening, sir. How was you? How was your week?
Yeah, Busy, crazy, as you know. Yeah, good week. Finished off this presentation that I'm wanting to get through so I can relax a bit, because I always get a little bit nervous before I've got to do anything more formal with stuff written in front of me. But yeah, other than that, good week. Crap weather here still, but looking forward to tonight, and more importantly, looking forward to catching up with Paul. Something that we've this presentation I've been trying to liaise with him on for quite a while, and we keep missing each other because he's a busy guy and so am I. So finally got it together on air tonight. I don't know if he's in just now, Josh, but
well, I see his icon here, so he's probably sitting there quietly, patiently waiting his turn. So without much further ado, I'd like to introduce a longtime friend of Iron Realm Media and a now veteran to Truth Frequency Radio, Mr. Paul on the Plane. Paul, how are you doing? How was your week?
Good. Can you guys hear me?
We can perfectly. Thank you.
Good. I hadn't tested the mic yet. So thanks for having me on. It's great to be back with the IRM team here. And I don't know about the veteran status you've given me, but I guess I'll take it. But I'm doing great. Thanks again. Carved out a little bit of time here during my work day, so I may have to go on and off mute, but I'm here and I'm live.
Well, we really appreciate you being here. Yeah, feel free to come and go as you please. That's just sort of the theme here on Iron Realm Media. Oh, there's
Good to have
James.
You, Paul. Good to talk to you again, man. Welcome back.
Good to talk to you guys as well. And yeah, Adam, this is a long time coming, and I've been rather elusive, I will admit. Just got so much going on, but we need to get this going. So I'm really excited to see what you got.
yeah. On that note, Matt, I'll do the presentation, but at any point, dip in, and there is a point halfway through that I'd probably prefer you to just explain than me fumble through in terms of some of the validity of what the readings I've taken. It's not a big scientific accurate experiment. It's more again a proof of concept, but stuff that I've put to friends who are in the aerospace industry and have struggled to give me an argument. So I'm just interested in terms of people's opinion on it. And I say, mate, please chip in at any point, as I have a propensity to ramble.
Well, let's get into a little bit of the background on this, because this really has been a long time coming. So let's just get into the background and explain exactly what it is. Well, what got you to this presentation, and just kind of ease people into what it is you'll be presenting.
Paul will probably be better on the exact time ago it was, but I don't know when it was when you, me, and John Savage sat down a while ago, mate, and had a chat about setting up your experiment to validate it in a scientific way. I don't know, how long ago was that, Paul? Do you know?
I'm going to take a guess. I mean, I know it was in June of last year when I, did the experiment. So probably, the 30 days or so, maybe leading up to it, we had our little powwow, and I started to do some pre-flight experiments looking at, how the equipment would perform under certain conditions, and it kind of evolved from there. So I would say we're coming up on almost a year.
It's not far. So, yeah, so about a year ago, Josh, we were chatting, and Paul was unveiling his plan for an experiment and that, and we were just discussing it. And as always, I kind of thought and asked him to do a million other things as well. And I kind of admit the concept in my head was traveling around a ball, which was naive to try and set up an experiment to not show that. But that was the kind of thing I asked him to leave on the accelerometer on the flight, as opposed to zeroing it to see what happens, but to use that to then kind of possibly plot some vectors that may occur. And Paul did his experiment. We all learned a lot from that. But it was one of those things that then I put to the back of my head, but it's always been kind of burning in the background as something I wanted to explore just a little bit. So it'd be last August, I decided to tape a flight between where was it? It was Nottingham, East Midlands Airport, and Rome. So collated the data there, and we've kind of sat on it since. I kind of looked through it. It kind of confirmed my suspicions and that, but always wanted to have a chat with Paul, and I've kind of always left it sat there, kind of half finished this thing for quite a while, wanting to meet up with Paul, and we've said we've kind of been elusive, the pair of us, and that brings us here today. So knowing what to do, I've kind of rushed it together a little bit, so it's not as pretty as I wanted, but as I said, I've learned a little bit about using PowerPoint this week, which I'm sure I'll embarrass myself with later with some of my graphics. But yeah, so that brings us to where we are, mate.
Well then, without much further ado, let's just go ahead and jump right in. I'm real curious to see exactly what it is. You sent the link, and I couldn't open it on my phone, and rather than come down and check it like I probably should have, I of course procrastinated. But now you even suggested it might even be a good thing. So I'm just going to come at this cold, and so you guys in chat, help me make sure that Adam is getting all this information out in a way that's, you know, at least understandable. And hopefully we will see what we can do. And I'm real curious to see what it is you've plotted here. So yeah, you are now presenting to everyone, so feel free to jump in whenever you're ready.
Okay. So as I've just rambled a little bit about, I've kind of gathered a load of accelerometer flight data to kind of add to all the kind of stuff we think about when we're talking about planes flying and noses never dipping down, and trying to use that data to try and prove the concept, but also maybe add an additional factor in terms of considering gravity and how gravity is affected when we transit across a ball at whatever altitude we're at. If we keep a straight orientation, and how that can actually affect the readings that we're going to take with the accelerometer as we would expect, because we're changing orientation, but also what the passengers actually may expect to experience and what they do experience, and how there is a conflict between those two things, between the theory, as I understand it, about traveling around a ball and the science of gravity. So to kind of start off, before I go into this, I just kind of want to define how a plane behaves in level flight. And so I started looking into it, and it's really boring, to be honest, these angle of incidence, angle of attack. But if we just kind of use the phrase angle of attack, and without having to overly qualify it, actually, it was in one of the pilots' forums when I was trying to get my head round this and how they understand it. And this pilot kind of described it, and he basically said that the angle the plane is pointing isn't necessarily in any way the angle in which it's traveling. And as you see here, this is taken from a training video. I've put the arrows on. The angle in which the plane is pointing is actually some 10, 20 degrees. So it's a little exaggerated in terms of when we're talking jet passenger planes. But as you can see, the actual angle of travel that's shown is actually straight in a linear line. So, and that's kind of from a little bit of research, like I said, checking out pilots' forums and seeing what angle passenger planes fly at. There's kind of an assumption that, excuse me, that straight flight when you're on a passenger plane is kind of achieved at a slight angle of 2 to 3 degrees of the plane inclined upwards. And that's probably why the seats are so bolt upright when you first get on. Tip back a little bit. But when we are flying, there's a couple of other assumptions I kind of want to make a statement about. And that's first that, as we see it with planes, the nose never tips down, and that's a common concept and proof we kind of all kind of agree with. And one of the issues I had was, well, how do planes take off and land? And basically, altitude is lost by one of two things. You either reduce airspeed, which I think is how kind of most certainly amateur pilots maintain what they're doing, is by maintaining their airspeed. But you can also increase the angle of attack, and that changes the air distribution. And this kind of concept is that the plane is still flying in a linear motion, but you decrease in altitude. And even if you're tilting up, you're not changing your orientation to the ground. And this is kind of exemplified in landing, because your orientation to the ground when you're landing is really important. So you can see that the plane is still traveling in a straight linear motion. So if you reduce these things, basically you'll drop in altitude. And this is basically all down to, as you look into the forms, lots of complicated calculations that basically say that you get a decrease in upward thrust, and therefore you drop down in the sky. So basically, when you're traveling, put simply, when you're traveling on an airliner, there's a slight tilt backwards in straight flight. So with this in mind, I kind of then put the accelerometer on and decided to put it on the floor of the cabin and kind of record the results. And I won't bore you with the recordings, but they sit there like that basically, and they're available if anybody really wants to see them, but I'll summarise them later. And this is probably where I could bring Paul in here in terms of his understanding of the accelerometer and kind of what it's going to show. So we start out pretty much on the runway, and it's close to zero, just a little bit above. And maybe, Paul, you could help me here, mate, and just describe how the accelerometer actually works whilst there.
Yeah, I've done... I've made a lot of these observations, haven't documented a lot of them, just kind of learning how these things would react during flight. And so, I had it sitting on my, I kind of ignored the rules that you're not supposed to have your tray table up or down. I like to have it down during takeoff and landing, as long as the flight attendant doesn't catch me and tells me to put it up. But I prefer to have my accelerometer app sitting on the tray there. But I've noticed, and you can do this in a car too, at initial acceleration that the plane undergoes to achieve, lift, you're going to see the bubble move because of the acceleration, and that's how these MEMS devices, based on my understanding, how this technology works in a phone. It's got these little fingers that are, kind of intertwined, and then as they change, as they're moved based on inertia, is what we're learning. As these things move, the phone is going to read those changes in distance between these little fingers that are that are reading the distance from each other. And so if you had this sitting on the floor, on the tray or whatever, in the initial acceleration, you probably would see the bubble, move quickly at first, in a certain direction, and then kind of level off as, acceleration is a little bit more constant. But during takeoff, it's, continued acceleration. So it's going to stay pretty much in the same spot, I would guess, just thinking back to what I've seen. And I'm assuming that's kind of what you experienced as well, Adam.
Yeah, totally. So you can see that, and there's questionable differences, and this comes into an angle of attack and angle of incidence, and there's difference between what I'm thinking I'm looking at on the screen and what I'm feeling like with the accelerometer a little bit. And A kind of a side point, really, that. But the point you're alluding to there, or I'm alluding to there, is in terms of accuracy and stuff. And I've seen a little bit of Wolfie's stuff, and like I say, some of the people I've spoke to, you can't use this to guide a plane. And I think the point I really want to kind of make here isn't necessarily in terms of the effects you get at takeoff and that, but really what we're trying to measure in this is if there is a change between a tilt where you're leaning backwards, not just towards the straight flat again, but actually so you've got a slight tilt forwards. So that's the kind of level of accuracy I'm wanting to be able to measure here. Nothing to the point of measuring and plotting flight data based on accelerometers, which is some of the silly criticism you see, Paul, with some of the stuff you see in terms of the accelerometer information. I don't think anybody's using it as combining it with GPS to plot stuff. Do you know what I mean? But would you kind of agree it's perfectly acceptable, accurate piece of equipment to see if you see a change between a upward over towards a downward incline?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of where, I think all the times that we've been using these things, that's really what the intent of the software is to be used for, is to measure a change, in your angle, the angle that your phone's at. That's the whole point. You could choose any angle you want and say, okay, phone, this is level. I choose this plane, whatever that is. It could be 45 degrees to the ground, 90 degrees to the ground, could be level with the ground you're on, whatever. You tell the phone, this is what I want you to consider level, and then you're going to let me know if there's any change to this level. End of story.
Can I just ask a simple question here, guys? How accurate are the instruments in the iPhone? Could you quantify how accurate it is to measure changes?
Yeah, they were accurate enough in that, wasn't it a 48-hour 360 rotation video to be able to spot that?
You referring to I think it was Tesla's Apple that originally did that with his one of those devices that you use to turn your lights on and off automatically, like in a lamp. So you plug it into this device, and this little dial rotates, for 24 hours. And it would, switch things on and off based on the time that you told it to. And so I think he attached his phone there to that, which rotates 360 degrees over 24 hours, which would be a perfect correlation, obviously, what we would expect to see living on a sphere that rotates every 24 hours, right? So, excellent. Yeah, and he was able to demonstrate that the phone is very sensitive enough to measure that.
Well, I know our buddy Paul. Yep. I'm sorry. Go ahead, James.
Well, I just wanted to say, that's it. I just wanted to restate that these are verifiable, very extremely accurate tools that we use. So.
Well, I was reading Paul's name when I said it. I meant our buddy Aaron. When he's been on numerous times, he's mentioned that there is technology. They're talking about that a security feature in a phone, the way you hold the phone is so distinct to you as a person that can be used by the phone's accelerometers to unlock and let it, it knows it's you instead of somebody else picking it up, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's being logged as actual biometric data.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Wow. Is this real? When is this coming out?
I'm not sure when they're going to implement it, but he's mentioned it a few times when we talk about the security issues with crypto coins and things like that.
This is one of those things that I've even heard them, programming in people on television. I'll be damned if I can remember what show it was. And just reflexively, I want to say it was Blind Spot, but I don't know. I don't watch that show regularly. It's one of those shows that my girlfriend watches. I just catch intermittently, but for some reason, it makes me think that that's where I heard that they're using it as biometric data because how you hold your phone is as unique as a fingerprint. I just thought that was really
getting serious. You know what?
I'll shut the F up now.
I think the iPhone does something like that too. They might be into. There was a commercial I've been seeing about a look. You can do a look a certain look with your eyes or your eyebrows or something, and that'll unlock some technology. So that's pretty crazy because a lot of people can make a funny face, right? So it must be very sensitive if you can just know it's that one person's face.
Yeah, some of us were born with funny faces.
Hear me there, guys.
Indeed, we
We
can.
do, yes, but we're not hearing you. Uh-oh.
That bloody mic's doing my head in, mate. I'm sorry about that. So you make the point that I wanted to make really well for me, which is this is more than accurate enough to be able to detect whether you're leaning backwards or leaning forwards slightly, and certainly transitioning between them. Yeah, so these are kind of some of the pictures. Like I said, I've got video, and I'll just kind of summarize the data that I collected. So basically what I did was I measured for the middle hour of a 2-hour flight, and it's the best part of 40 minutes, but I spent that hour looking at the accelerometer there. Between all that time, the readings varied between, they weren't as low as 0.8 and stuff, but basically between 1 and virtually 4 degrees during the times I was monitoring. But at no point did they ever go to 0 even, or even below 0 ever. So we've got a good hour's worth of data there. I'm assuming that I looked at it, it's about 850 kilometers an hour these jets fly at. So over the hour, let's just assume it's observations taken over travel of 800 kilometers. And at no point did we observe any reorientation of the plane. It was pretty much a straight flight. And again, this is a picture I've took from a training video where it talks about angle of attack and the flight path of the vector. And as you can see here, look, with this angle of attack, this constant angle, and whether it varies between 0.5 degree or 4 degrees, at no point is the plane's orientation changing in terms of the straight line that's underneath it. Okay, it's angled like that, but actually the plane is flying like that. So whether it's tipped there, just a little bit lower, it's actually flying in a straight line. And this is kind of verified with the other instruments that the pilots use in terms of the gyroscopes that are in the plane. Excuse me. So basically from this is the math side of it. There's these basically the flight path vector that's calculated, which again is a straight line vector. So we can kind of make a statement that when the plane's in the air with all the equipment on board, what's happening to that plane is it is flying in a straight line. It is not flying in a curved or arced line. The flight path is straight. From the flight maths and from basic understanding of what we've kind of described there and how pilots describe what they're doing.
No, I think I got that. That makes sense, to me.
Yeah?
I think so, yeah. I think we're good. But no, that's really well explained. I really dig it.
I suppose the way I'd kind of explain it is when you see rockets and they level off and they're going straight, they are going straight. You see them, and planes go straight. You don't see that chemtrail arcing.
Right.
Yeah. So they're going straight. It's a straight vector that they're creating. And like I said, there's a small amount of variation. And if you watch the videos, it's not sat at 2.4. It's going 1.9, 2.8, 1.6. So, it's fluctuating between these rapidly as the plane kind of bounces around in the air. But the general principle is it's flying, as you'll see in go and research it, that it's flying at around about 3 degrees attack angle. So with all that, with that attack angle, I'm happy to make the statement that the vector is a straight vector. It's not contained to any form of arc.
Well, that really just doesn't work with the model that the world has.
Right. So that's what I'm going to kind of come to now. So we've kind of ascertained that what the plane's doing, what the aeroplane's doing. It's flying in a straight line. So what I want to look at now is what kind of ground we have underneath that plane that we've quite scientifically described in all the formulas, and we could go into much more scientific detail, which proves exactly the basic observations we all know. What difference the type of terrain you have underneath you, and by that I mean plane or planet, not the topography of the ground, what kind of difference that would make to the experience of the passengers. So basically, if you're flying across a flat plane, the orientation and direction of gravity basically remain the same as you travel across a flat plane. If excuse me, if we're on a curved Earth, then the orientation and direction of gravity will vary away from the point of orientation and from the point of the passengers traveling in a straight line, which is perpendicular to the point of origin, at a rate of 0.009 degrees per kilometre from that straight line distance. It's not just the shape of the Earth that's changing. It is, as the ball develops, it's the orientation of gravity that's actually changing underneath them. So with that in mind, guys, here we go. This is my attempt at PowerPoint.
I'm loving it. It's beautiful.
Okay. So as we say, we've got our aeroplane, and it's flying.
Oh, how'd you do that?
Did you see that? Can you see that? It gets better. Yeah, watch this.
Color me impressed.
What? Somebody can animate.
Yeah, you see. All right. So basically, we've described the motion. Forget what's underneath it. It's the same, isn't it? We've described it in relation to possible. We've got straight line travel, and as we say, we've tried to describe this here is the forces of gravity that are experienced, and the only real significant change from anybody on the plane is that actually this plane's slightly inclined, and as we said, passenger airplane slightly inclined through, but for all intensive purposes, it's straight down. Okay, whether you're at 0 point or whether you're at 1,000 kilometers. Okay, there is no change in the orientation if we're on a flat plane, and down isn't necessarily created by the amount of mass at a central point. Now, if we're on a curved Earth, as I said, the orientation, direction of gravity will vary at a rate of 0.009 degrees per kilometre. So as you can see here, if you look here, I don't know if it's accurate, but maybe it's roughly 10 degrees. And we'll call this 1,000 kilometres, which is close to the 800 that my measurements were taken. And then there's a need, as I say, it's demonstration of concept, not exact proof. So if we think about, once again, forget the Earth underneath, when we think about our plane flying across there.
CGI. I'm calling CGI. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm telling you what, Elon Musk, the thing is,
Starman is in there. You know put Starman behind the wheel there.
Oh, Starman.
Sorry,
Josh,
Adam. Please proceed.
No, Josh, I was just going to ask Josh. Josh, can you tell why this is real? This isn't animation.
Well, it looks super fake, so that just to me means it's super real.
My bad. You're right. It has to be real. It screams reality after. Well, there's no atmospheric occlusion, so I mean we're straight. We're good.
So now we're living on a ball. Okay, so we've got the ball and we've got that curve, and the plane has still traversed the same vector as before, which we've measured, and as Paul's validated, the equipment has validated that what's happening is there is no change in orientation of the plane. So it's that straight flight. It might wobble a little bit like that, but there isn't a change. A little bit, yeah. So again, at the start point here, the direction of gravity is, as we see there, as we progress a little bit, even after, say, I don't know, what's that going to be? 300 kilometers. There might be a slight change, but maybe nothing noticeable due to the alterations. But as we start to get to like 750 kilometers, we're starting to get like, what's that going to be? 6 degrees sort of angle of change of elevation. But if we get to just at 1,000 kilometers, so the observation period of the flight, as I said, that would be close to a 9-degree change in angle of pitch. So, okay, so that's, does that make sense, guys?
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
So,
Totally tracking with you.
That was informational.
So that's a 6-degree change.
Yeah.
And super
I'd like to
entertaining.
kind of explain that a little bit. Is so maybe in some of the bigger flights that Paul experienced as he flew from America to the British Isles and last year. And if we think about,
By the way, that's the best picture of the globe I've ever seen. I love it. That's really the state of the ball right now with all the flat Earth attacks going on.
She's pretty poorly right now, the ball, isn't she?
Oh.
So if you think about it, and we just think about traveling from the North Pole, because wherever we start on a ball, because of gravity, we're always at the top, okay? And we plot out these straight vectors, okay, as the plane travels, and we get to, I don't know, we get to the equator. We want to think about this travel, and what I've drawn on here is the lines of gravity that as this plane, which is traveling in a straight vector. Now, instead of it traveling off into space, which is some of the Sujita calculations you see, what we've assumed is he might slow down a little bit or reduce his angle of attack a little bit, as we saw in the calculations between 1 and 4 degrees. And that was, as we said, creates a reduction in upward thrust, which would cause a reduction in upward thrust, which means a reduction in elevation. What we never experience is any reorientation in line with the ball. So we can imagine that on a long journey flight, that what we're doing is because we're flying off into space like rockets do, because remember, that's how a rocket manages to escape the gravitational pull of the Earth and escape velocity. It's easy to fly in a straight line away from the gravitational pull of the Earth. So that's a reasonable concept, I think. So as we go around the ball, this is the change in the gravitational orientation, and that doesn't look that confusing. But if we think of the green one as our starting point, and this is the changes that I've just showed as we go around the ball, if I twist these arrows so that gravity reorientates to as the passengers would experience them on the aeroplane, that obviously reorientates the aeroplane. So what you actually see, with what passengers will experience on a long-haul flight, in straight flight, would be this strange increase in feeling like you're going suddenly on a roller coaster, i.e. they're going to eventually feel the change in orientation of gravity as the Earth kind of changes its position underneath them. So as you fly across, as we say, you see that there is this.
You need to be a bit more
change.
careful, Adam. Just when you're going to do that, just make sure you do give out a proper warning. We can see the clouds are not moving, so it's obviously fake, which means it's obviously real, which means poor Baron in chat is having to dodge these huge blue arrows as they come screeching down out of the sky. because obviously this stuff is real. So just be careful and give us a proper warning so Baron can at least take cover.
This is why they outlawed jarts, what would they call the lawn darts that used to, have the big metal spear on the end. You would just toss up in the air and everybody would run for cover.
So does that kind of make sense in terms
Absolutely.
of what I'm saying?
This is amazing stuff, brother.
Okay, so let's leave it there. I'll kind of summarize, and then I'll hand it over to you guys for whatever. So basically, the results of the experiment that I conducted using the accelerometer, which I think has been tested, validated, and verified as to what it can provide us information-wise, great deal more than is required for the understanding of this experiment is that during 1 hour of the monitored flight, only a constant incline of orientation between 1 degree and 4 degrees was observed. No resultant change in the orientation with respect to gravitational pull was experienced or measured by anybody certainly not me. And I didn't look around anyone else thinking, what the hell's going off all around the roller coaster. So in summary, the conclusion I would make from this is that the observations and measurements found no evidence for curvature as would be experienced or measured by the accelerometer by traveling across a ball of circumference 40,000 kilometers. Contrary, the results and measurements actually would indicate that travel occurred with lines of gravity parallel with each other and perpendicular to the line of straight travel, consistent with traveling across a flat plane. I thank you, gentlemen.
Indeed.
Well,
hey, Adam, can you go back to that one slide where you've got the black arrows and the yellow arrows? I want to see that again because there's something really important there, and I don't know what it is. I'm just thinking this through. So just to understand, you're saying that, and which I agree, but just for everybody listening, and I can think better if my mouth is moving. So the plane is traveling level based on, the observations from the Bubble Level app, because you can tell that its nose isn't changing any pitch, or the plane's pitch isn't changing, so therefore it's traveling in a straight line, not going up or down.
Can I support that statement by the fact that the reason it's not moving is it's defined by a gyroscope?
Yes,
so,
agreed.
Yeah.
Level flight. And so if we assume then that the ground would have to, at least over a good distance, would have to start curving away if we live on a spherical Earth, then the direction that gravity is pulling would have to continually be kind of rocking back, which is what you show with the black arrows.
Yep.
So we would, again, if we live on a ball and a pilot's not adjusting the nose down to follow the curve, but continues to go into a straight line, heading into space, right?
Yeah.
We would feel gravity changing its effect on us because the vector is changing. It would be a consistent down. It would be continuing to pull us where we would seem to be almost getting heavier and heavier maybe in our seats, kind of going backwards versus down, what we think is down based on looking out the window, which we couldn't tell.
Feel as though we were going
some
up.
way to look.
Sorry, it would feel like we were going up all of a sudden.
Well, yeah, and so that's that's where you've made the jump here in your conclusion. Well, your thought process is that if we correct the angle that quote unquote gravity is pulling us, which is the yellow arrows, then we'd also have to change the orientation of the plane to match that. And therefore, we would feel like we are going up, up, and up. And we'd have to look out the window to try and orient ourselves and hopefully could see the ground and the sky and figure out that we're still, not flying straight up.
So the head bender, and this is what my friend Mark. He's the guy that works for Rolls-Royce and does the approval for flights and stuff. And this is the thing I put to him, and he's not agreeing with me. He's just not giving me any sufficient rebuttal. And the way he described it is exactly as I sat there trying to comprehend this, which is to sit there with a ball and an aeroplane and try and make that aeroplane conform to the ball without tilting the nose down. Okay, and if you don't tilt the nose down, which we all agree doesn't happen because the gyroscope does it, and we agree gyroscopes don't magically reorientate because of gravity, then what I'm kind of really sarcastically pointing out is the contradiction between what the pilot's doing and what gravity and the travel across the ball would have to dictate would happen in terms of the orientation of gravity, and therefore the experience the passengers have, which is basically going up a steeper and steeper and steeper and steeper and steeper, and exponentially, 6379 times 6379 times the cosine of 0.00839 22161. That rate, or 8 inches per mile squared, you could probably do it as. But that kind of exponential rate is what they would feel the journey would be. And as we say, that's not experienced, and it's also not mitigated for by the accelerometer data, which is correct. The gyroscope that the pilot flies to and the accelerometer, or the theory of gravity on a ball.
I think that's where the argument is going to continue to go back to, is going to potentially be, putting on, playing devil's advocate, whatever here.
Right, that's where I was headed, Paul.
It's going to go back and it's going to say, and this is the same thing that I, constantly deal with all of the footage that I've put out there and conclusions I've drawn based on all of the evidence that I've gathered and whatever, is the claim that the MEMS devices in the phone, the gyro, the accelerometers, etc., are continually referencing the force of gravity. And so therefore, and the same with the gyro in the plane, the claim is going to be that since it's always feeling that pull, that's orienting itself based on that pull, therefore you don't notice the change. And I think that's where, this comes back to looking at the specifications and understanding how this technology works, and looking at the specs and looking at the people that have designed it and having them confirm, and this is what I think we've done, is that it's based on inertia, not on gravity, is the reason that these things, or the reason that you sense a change, or the phone senses a change. I mean, I think we've all done it. I mean, and it seems like the older maybe not the newer phones as much, but I've got a third, my iPhone that I use is like three phones ago now. It's getting old. I think there's like an 8 now or something like that. But it seems like the older the phone gets, the less the accelerometers work, because there are many times that I will flip my phone to the side and the screen won't change. Are you trying to tell me that gravity is not working now? Okay. Well, no, I had to go and I had to go back and flip it again. And for some reason, the accelerometer didn't measure the change, didn't recognize that inertia change, that I moved it. So that's
what I'd like to know, Paul, is how did they somehow shrink down LIGO and fit it into the phone to detect that gravity? Because I thought up until the amazing discovery of the colliding galaxies a gazillion miles away, we didn't even know what gravity waves were, or gravity was not even measurable or detectable.
You got to bring up a good point. The only reason that the phone is able to do what it's able to do is because it has to recognize that it is moving. Its inertia is what causes it to recognize the change. So you could boot your phone sitting up on its side, and that's gonna tell the phone basically where it is, and it's going to continue to reference that point. I mean, that may be something we could all test. We could turn off our phones and maybe set it on its side and boot it up, and then load up an app where you would expect it to, one of those apps that's going to reorient itself if you change the phone's angle. If you flip it on its side, the UI is going to change. Boot it up on its side, open up that app, and see if it automatically changes. Is it referencing gravity, or is it waiting for the phone to be moved so it knows what to do? Just, in a real simplistic way, we can continue to prove that what Adam's conclusions that he's drawing here are accurate. And that is, if there is any change in the inertia, that are measured by the accelerometer in the phone, it's going to keep the bubble is going to continue to be at that same spot. It's not going to be until the phone is moved significantly is it going to register the change. It has nothing to do with any force pulling on it. It has to do with just the fact that the phone itself was moved.
Eat a dick, gravity.
Jerk.
I think that's the point. We're kind of asking gravity to do two things here. We're asking it to control a gyroscope, which is a physical realignment through no actual physical contact. We can all realign a gyroscope by moving it and holding it there till it stabilizes and it will fix it. And the ballers will use that excuse, and that's fine. But now what we're also adding in is within this experiment, this is kind of the point really, I'm kind of showing within this concept that actually we're asking gravity to do two things, which is also to, from the makers of an accelerometer, apply an inertial transfer of a realignment. And I think it might be reasonable or cognitively dissonance available to allow one of those to be forgotten about, but to consider the two in dual alignment, because the pilot is flying by the gyroscope and we are not seeing via the accelerometer any realignment due to the Earth. So which one, or does gravity now, as James jokingly says, but correctly, is it magic gravity again? It does both of those things.
Magic.
I think you've done some good work here. This is more proof, Adam, that what we think is going on is actually happening. Because again, the equipment should tell us differently. If the plane is conforming to and keeping with a force or whatever you want to call gravity, a pull, that objects are attracted to each other. The equipment doesn't seem to be providing the evidence to us that that's what's going on here at all. The evidence simply, in my opinion, points to the fact that we're traveling, and when we're in an airplane, we're traveling level over an extended plane. And that's why the equipment is returning the data, or that we're making these observations.
Cool. Thanks, mate. I appreciate the feedback. I'll leave it there and let people have a chew on it. And
have you follow-up question? Have you made any observations with the accelerometer, with that app, while the plane is banking?
Good question.
Right. Okay. So that's the point I alluded to earlier. In terms of speaking to Mark, my friend, who's, like I said, involved in aeroplanes and the safety and verification for takeoff and landing. He's got a doctorate, and like I say, he's a guy whose opinion I really respect. Do you know what I mean? So his feedback, and that was one of the points he made. And as I made to him, I'd watched actually it's Wolfie's video where he demonstrates the difference between these specialized equipment, which is for plotting what a plane's exactly doing, okay, and how an accelerometer is deficient in being able to relay that data. Now, as I kind of alluded to earlier, the purpose of all I'm asking the accelerometer to do is to sit level with the fuselage and determine the angle that the fuselage is sat at. And I think it's perfectly reasonable that it would be able to detect. And I don't even want to take 1 degree, 2 degree, 3 degree, 4 degrees. I just want to know whether or not a forward angle is ever applied. And that was for me, the conclusive and significant point. As much as we say, it's that using the two conflated ideas that ballers all come up with, and you can give an explanation for one and can give an explanation for two. But I'd like an explanation for the two together, that the pilot's flying steady, nobody's experienced a tip forward, and the accelerometer isn't tipping forward. So what is gravity doing if it is this magical force that tweaks things without us knowing?
Agreed. These are valid questions. Just thinking about the technology, and I've just done just cursory really reviews of it. Once I got to the point where I learned it was inertia, it just all kind of made sense. So we can probably go a lot deeper. I'm wondering if there is, something, using density, with the accelerometers, and weight, or whatever, that we all would experience and observe with any object in free space. And if there's any reference to density in an accelerometer, just an open-ended question, not something I've even looked into, but I'd be curious to know if there's any components there that could help reference that.
That's the significant difference. That was probably not that kind of made. The gyroscope is sat in free space. The accelerometer isn't. It's there to be exposed to inertia, isn't it? It's the gyroscope's going to correct for inertia, isn't it? In terms of that, that's what it's going to correct to maintain its rigidity in free space. The accelerometer is measuring that. Do you see what I mean? And the accelerometer is not saying that the gyroscope is ever under a duress of a downward movement. So it's kind of confirming that even if gravity is making this magical adjustment that the pilot's unaware of, that he's tipping down, the accelerometer is saying, no, well, that's not happening. There's no downward inertial movement.
Yeah, I'm with you. The accelerometer could be doing exactly that. Could be looking to the gyro for direction.
Yeah. So, do you know what I mean? The two are sat measuring different way. One's sat in free space and one's responding to inertia, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the one that's sat in free space is flying, and the pilot's not having to nose down or do anything really, just maintain straight flight, keep everything as it is, and the gyro saying you're staying level. Okay, and now the ballers will say, well, gravity could be doing this magic thing where subconsciously the pilot's slightly nosing down because it's only 8 inches over a mile, so, or now the autopilots do this automatically, that's fine. But we've now, at the same time, we've got straight flight. Everybody's appreciating that straight flight, and we've got the accelerometer data that's saying that no, there isn't any slight inertial downwards. All you've got is I'm sat here and I'm slightly tipping, but at no point am I ever tipping past the 0 point into the nose ever going down, whether the pilot perceives it or not. The readings on the accelerometer say, no, it never even gets to level, never mind going the other way. So the plane fuselage could realign so that the change.
You're still going to see the bubble level move. So you can tell that it's based on, the acceleration duration.
Adam, can I just say, man, I would love to commend you on that. That was a very well thought out demonstration of your concept, and it was very, very well explained and translated and easily understood for me, and the concept is very clear now. Thank you very much. Great job, man.
Cheers, bro.
No, that was
It made sense.
Professor Adam.
that was some quality infotainment right there.
Indeed, Professor Adam.
Did you like that PowerPoint shit? Like, are you checking? Are you digging that PowerPoint?
You really went
Dude.
too good, dude. From now on, everything we do is going to be suspect. They'll all think it's CGI and
I want to
fake.
talk to your sons.
One
Guys,
quick follow-up, guys. I asked that question to Adam. I've been doing on some recent flights. I probably travel about once a month or so. I'm on a plane, and I mentioned I like to just stick my phone right on the tray in my seat, and so I had it on sitting there during take. The is having to bank a few times to get its pointed at the right direction, so I can travel to my destination. And what I've noticed during banking maneuvers is that there's very little change in the bubble. It pretty much stays centered, or wherever it was when I first got on the plane, and during the flight it doesn't change. Now initially, when the plane starts to bank, you'll see it again bounce a little bit more, but then it stays pretty much centered again. And my question is, how come, if gravity is pulling down, and what I think is down, and I'm at an angle, how come the accelerometer doesn't measure that change?
well, that's the concept, mate. You get me?
Yep.
It's that contradiction between what they're saying it does with the gyroscope and what it does there. It's inertial. If it is inertial and gravity does correct it when you switch your machine off, then it has to have that angular movement as well as you bank, and there is none of that. Because
and that's exactly what it is.
Translated as a realignment of gravity, which is an inertial pull on the accelerometer.
Yeah, you've got angular momentum is what's causing that, and that's exactly why another piece of evidence to indicate that it's not referencing gravity. It's inertia that's causing the readings that you get with the bubble level app.
So that's the point. I'm happy for people to use that disproof of the data of saying, it's bank left and right, therefore it can't tilt left, up and down. People on the plane could tell if they were gone from sitting backwards to forwards constantly. Do you know what I mean? But they have to pick one or the other in my book. You can't have it affecting the gyroscope or affecting that like that. It's one or the other. It is either inertial or it isn't inertial, and it's either free space or it's not free space. You can't keep saying gravity does two magic things.
Yep. And then when you calibrate it, or you zero it out at a certain angle, what have you done there is you've basically frozen the angle of orientation in free space, and you're measuring any inertia changes to that with the accelerometer.
And that's why it freezes, because as you go left, there is no other inertial change that would and should be created by gravity. It's because you're in a contained, and that I think is, and this is getting beyond my level now, mate, but I think that is the scientific criticism of why the accelerometers can't do what the pilots say, and why you have to have other specialized equipment for that.
Agreed. Good stuff.
That is. That's really good stuff, Adam. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm doing any glass of wine.
I hope people think about it and let it sit for a little bit, and I hope we really come back to it, because you really got something here. Great concept.
Yeah, and then we figure out where we go from here. We're continuing to build on all of this with the equipment that we all can get our hands on, and situations that we get in. Where else can we, what else can we test here? We'll fine tune this and really practice some science here and continue to build on it.
Amen.
What's next?
That's exactly what we have to figure out.
I think a gravity break is next for me, if we can, but...
Good segue.
I'd like to see a cockpit and an accelerometer recorded at the same time. So what I was describing there can actually be matched up, so that any hole in the argument I've just put could be explained.
Well, then we need to enlist a pilot in this. Sounds like to get someone to be able to do that.
But that would seem the sensible validation or way to debunk the concept.
You're talking about the artificial horizon with an accelerometer next to each other.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, okay. Just making sure that's exactly what I'm thinking.
Well, I know there are a few in the community that have been on different shows. We've been working on trying to get a few here. We've just got a lot going on. Haven't had that happen yet, but anyone out there that has that contact, that might be something to work on for sure.
Yeah, we don't need a commercial pilot. We can use any size plane.
Any size, right?
Transport, farmers. Who do you know? Who do you know?
Crop dusters.
Crop duster. That's what I'm thinking here in South Louisiana. There are few and far between these days, but they still do it. Am I echoing badly? Or
it doesn't matter what they believe. We just need to pin a phone next to their artificial horizon and put a camera on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Fly around.
To know what you're trying to prove or disprove. Tell them, hey, I want to test this thing on my phone and see if it works or not. You know, you don't have to tell them why you're testing this thing on your phone. Just tell them you're scientific.
Doing your research paper.
Just a quick shout out to Matt H. He's noticed that SpaceX are drafting a contract to offer me as we speak, and I didn't want to jump the gun, but I've got to be honest with you. When towards maybe Easter time, I'm hoping to announce and give you video footage of us actually going not to Mars, guys. I'm going to go straight around Jupiter. Yeah, that's the plan. Yeah.
Get your ass to Mars.
Yeah. I've got a special boat, actually, that I'm going to use to go there. It was actually kitted out to go to the Antarctica and beyond, but I can't find a use for that anymore. But I'm hoping that we can kit it out, and I'll bring you real footage of us off to Jupiter. Anyway, sorry, nonsense. But yeah, thanks, mate.
Well, that being said, it might really be time for a little bit of a gravity break. I had quite a bit of water with my kratom before the show, so yes, I could do with a gravity break.
I won't mind 5 minutes gathering myself. That was it's hard work, mate. That's work.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, I couldn't have thought of a better season ender to. Yeah, that was amazing stuff.
Oh yeah, today's our season ender.
Adam crushed it.
Yes, he did. He dropped the mic and walked away.
Mic drop.
What angle was that? 3 degrees?
Exactly.
I did have to drop the mic halfway through. It cut out.
It really did, right?
Well, YouTube was acting, how it does. Luckily, my computer didn't just completely freeze up and crash. But if viewers and listeners experience some buffering, that was just Google letting us know that we now have the ability to go back and edit our live stream just like SpaceX. So cool.
Nice.
Thanks, Adam.
Are you kidding me?
I can fix that, guys. As long as you can do it on PowerPoint, I'm there.
Oh, I'm sure we can come up with something. All right.
As far as you can tell, it doesn't matter how crap the stuff looks anyway and how implausible it is. That just makes it more real. So it doesn't matter.
That's it. Just makes it more real.
Yep. The realer it gets, the faker it looks. That's how our world is.
Proves it. Are you stupid? Proves it.
Indubitably and undeniably. All right. So gravity's just a hair under 4 minutes. So I may do a little bit of fill music afterwards. And
are you going to try to play it? I was going to do it and keep you from.
I think I've got it.
Crashing. Okay, we'll do.
I think that's why I might have made Google angry the first time, because I was trying to pull it up earlier, knowing this was going to be an issue. So I think I got the bugs worked out. I think I should be good. Let's hope it doesn't want to start buffering halfway through. You know what? While I'm talking, I'm just going to go ahead and knock down the the settings on here, so hopefully that works a little better. All right, so now we can play it, and hopefully we'll play it all the way through. Let's take a little break, grab some coffee, grab some water, hydrate, dehydrate, release some of the water, do whatever you got to do. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Iron Rail Media's Flat Earth Fringecast, TGIF. Thank God it's flat. My name is Josh Corey. We're going to take a little bit of break, and we'll be right back. Thank you guys so much for joining us. This has been a blast, and enjoy some Cheyenne and Gravity.
We're up pretty high, our heads are almost in the clouds, and their feet are chained to the ground with their chains of misery. They've got a hold of me, they won't let go of me. Let go of me. They might have gravity on their side, but something's pulling us high. Got the potential to fly. Don't let them be what holds you back from this one incredible chance. They're lucky to have had a glance at you while you defy gravity. They can be cruel and mean and a huge pain. Our heads are in the clouds now. Don't let them make it rain. A smile can be the sign they're missing out on their rainy day. They might have gravity on their side, but something's pulling us high. Got the potential to fly. Don't let them be what holds you back from this one incredible chance. They're lucky to have had a glance at you while you defy gravity. You defy gravity. They say we aren't strong enough, we don't have what it takes. I say yeah, they're wrong enough, and we'll show them someday. They might have gravity on their side, but something's pulling us high. Got the potential to fly. Oh yeah, don't let them be what holds you back from this one incredible chance. They're lucky to have had a glance at you while you defy gravity.